I think when we think about technologies, Terry Anderson wrote an excellent paper on finding the right mix. And you need to find that right mix between the pedagogies and the technology. So I can't say there's one technology. I can't say, well, MOOCs, that's it. That's going to be the technology. Or you know, social media, that's going to be the technology. The technology really depends on the context. So what you need to do is to look at your context. For example, you can't have the same kinds of technology in South Africa as you do, for example, in Europe. You know, their context is very different. So I think it's very essential to look at finding that right mix between pedagogy and technology. So that's one thing in terms of technology that is going to be really important in supporting our learners. The other thing that I think is essential is that our learners have an opportunity to create their own personal learning environments. And this means they decide what kind of technology they're going to build into those learning environments. And so what I do in my courses is I expose my students to a number of different technologies, a number of different social media, and what they have to do then is they need to decide, well, which technology works best for me in terms of my learning. Some of them, for example, Twitter, they have to follow a distance education researcher on Twitter, and then they have to tweet about something that the researcher has produced or written or tweeted about. And some students say, this is fabulous, I'm learning so much, and I've created a whole network of people that I have contact with, and I'm learning from all of these new resources. And others say, no, this really isn't for me. And so they go on to another form of social media. For example, Scoop It. Scoop It's real popular amongst my students because it gives them an opportunity to create pages where they bring in all of the information along specific themes or topics. So I think allowing students the opportunity to create these personal learning environments that don't just stay with them while they're at the university, but they carry with them throughout their lives will support them in really addressing the complexities of the work environment later. It will create a network for them to go back to if they have questions, if they have issues, or if they need information. And so I think the personal learning environment is very important. Another thing that I think is going to happen with students is, and this is something that is happening more and more within Europe, is coding. Okay? Programmers right now are making decisions about how we use their technology and how we use their software. Now, I don't think those decisions should necessarily be made by programmers. I think these are decisions that users should also be making. I mean, anytime you use a technology and it doesn't work the way you expect it to, your first reaction is, well, I'm just not smart enough to use this technology. Well, the reality is the design is very poor. And so if we have more students or faculty involved in the programming or the design of this technology, the better position they will be to use it in a more meaningful pedagogical way. And so one of the things that I've been pushing for lately is let's get people coding early on, so that when they create their personal learning environments, they could actually create their own applications. When I think about a personal learning environment, I think about this. I think about this iPhone, yeah? Because this is where I keep my information. This is where I go to. There are different apps that I go to for different information. And so I think for many of our students today, this is their personal learning environment, are their telephones. And so if they're involved in the actual coding, they can then communicate better with programmers who are not all that easy to communicate with, from my experience.